Hello, Coach Magazine Global audience. Welcome to our 12th 5 o'clock tea talk. Today we have our guest, John Parr. I'm going to introduce him a little bit. John is the founder and creator of the emotional assertiveness model and has been working within the psychotherapy space for 40 years. His career started in the Royal Navy as an electronics engineer, but he soon diverted into a more people focused career in the 70s. Managed a rehabilitation center for substance abusers, worked as a probation officer, and then as an HR manager prior to becoming a psychotherapist and a trainer in psychotherapy. He now certifies professionals to present or coach using his model. In the early 90s, John realized there was a lot of material about emotional intelligence, but nothing on how to apply it. He decided to write his master's degree on the topic of applied emotional intelligence. This eventually led him to develop the emotional assertiveness model. Since then, John has been training and coaching people to live emotionally fulfilled lives, both personally and professionally, by encompassing healthy, respectful, and productive relationships through emotional assertiveness. Welcome, John. Nice to have you here. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, Seda. I should say teşekkürler.
Teşekkürler ya. John been to Turkey, so he knows that I'm Turkish and he's been very nice. Thank you so much. So I'm starting with my first question without making anybody to wait. Can you share more about your transition from a career in the Royal Academy, the Royal Navy, as an electronics engineer to working in psychotherapy? What inspired this shift towards a more people-focused career in the 70s?
Well, it was a religious conversion, actually, Seda. So I was an atheist, was doing a course in advanced electronics in the Royal Navy School of Electronics. But the first 12 weeks was learning to use hand tools to make pieces of metal fit together with very small tolerances. And on the bench next to me was a guy who was going to be a vicar in the Church of England, and he and I started to have conversations. And in the evenings, I went home and read the Bible to find things to wind him up about, basically. And reading the Bible, I began to find things that wound me up. So I eventually became a Christian and decided I wanted to work with people and not work with killing people. So that was the root of the change.
Oh wow, that's very powerful and inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
As I mentioned in your bio at the beginning, you developed the emotional assertiveness model in the early 90s. Could you
Yes.
elaborate on the specific challenges or gaps in the field of emotional intelligence that led you to create this model? What sets it apart from other approaches to emotional intelligence? What inspired you in short?
Well, the inspiration first came from noticing clusters of clients with different ways of managing their problems. I saw two clusters of clients, one who got into their heads whenever they had a problem, avoided their emotions like the plague, and just wanted to think their way through it and often couldn't. And another group who, when they had a problem, overly emotional and couldn't think clearly. And I started working to help both types of people to join their thinking and their emotions together to problem solve, because I realized that emotions are really important bits of information on the problem solving trail. And that's when I'd started to find out that there was a lot of stuff out there, but nothing much about the how to. And as I'd been developing tools to help people how to, that's what led me to write the master's thesis. So I decided to put my skills into a master's degree and develop it so that I could get other people to use it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's like it inspired me as an engineer. You took your engineering skills into social sciences with human intellect, and wow, yeah, all these creative people comes from this kind of mathematical backgrounds, probably. That's good.
Well,
Thank you.
there is a degree of that. I like whatever I'm doing to make sense. So it has to be logical to me.
Mhm.
And I needed the logic of emotions. And to me, the logic of emotions were that we spoke an emotional language before we actually had words. So the human species millennia ago didn't have a language, but they communicated via emotions mostly, like animals do. And when we're born as babies, we don't have words, we have emotions. And I realized that as we grow up, some of us learn to avoid our emotions instead of recognize they're an integral part of how we connect with people.
Yeah. It's not we are not just avoiding, we are also suppressing, putting under the carpet, don't want to see it, block
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah,
bad things.
yeah, absolutely. The key bad thing for me is that we use our emotions inappropriately. So people talk about positive emotions and negative emotions, and I say there is no such thing. There are just emotions. It's not the emotion that's positive or negative, it's how we express the emotion that's positive or negative. So if I express my emotions in an authentic way with the aim of building healthy relationships, that's positive. But if I try and divert my emotions and not deal with the authentic emotion and cover it up with something that I've learned to replace the authentic with, then we're not solving problems. We're actually making the problems worse. So it's really about learning how to differentiate between the healthy expression and the unhealthy expression of emotions. That's at the heart of my model.
So it's crucial to identify them correctly
Yes.
so we can work with them
Yes.
accurately, right?
Yes. That's right.
So this is my third question. Your work focuses on training and coaching people to live emotionally fulfilled lives. Could you provide some key principles or techniques from the emotional assertiveness model that individuals can apply to achieve emotional fulfillment, both personally and professionally?
Yes. You asked really interesting questions, Seda. Um, this really is about learning the model to start with. So the model looks at four basic emotions, and I say that they are the primary emotions. So I teach people to recognize their primary emotions, which are happy, sad, scared, and angry. And I equate our emotions with the central nervous system that physically protects our body. We have pain and sensations, physical sensations, and they're there to keep our body healthy, basically. Pain protects me. If I break a limb, pain tells me to stop using the limb to allow the body to heal. Pleasurable sensations tell me keep doing that. That's good. You're getting healthy endorphins flowing in the body. So the whole body is set up to self heal. I believe it was designed that way so that actually not feeling any pain, excuse me, not feeling any pain is usually an indicator that we're healthy. And then I equated that with our emotions. What are emotions doing for us? And I realized that we're designed to be happy, that our core emotion should be happy, which is not just jumping around and whooping all the time, but it's being calm, content, relaxed, and relatively stress free. And the other emotions tell us when something is not okay in the environment, and it's the interpersonal relationship environment mostly, and that they tell us what do we need. Each of the other emotions tell us what we need to do to heal. So when I'm angry, I need to negotiate in a healthy way to solve a problem. When I'm sad, it's because I've experienced a loss and I need to bring people into my life that will offer me comfort and nurture and care. And when I'm afraid, I need people in my life who will be my allies, who will have my back, who will protect me, or I find my own means of protection. So these emotions are all driving us back to being healthy and happy,
Yeah.
and that's the central learning point. And then what I teach people to do is how to identify their healthy emotions from their unhealthy emotions, and how to use time as one of the markers. So anger is about the here and now.
Mhm.
There's a problem here and now, it needs solving. Sadness is about the past because it's about loss.
Mhm.
Fear is about the future because it's about threat. So we can use that time framing to identify, is the emotion that I think I'm experiencing an online emotion? Is it healthy and in the right time frame? If it's in the wrong time frame, like for example, if I'm angry about something that happened days ago, how come I haven't resolved it yet? So there's something wrong there. I'm in the wrong time frame. That's not the here and now. That's the past. If I'm
Mhm.
angry about something in the future, nothing I can do to change the future. So there's no point in dealing with the future until we get to the future. I can be prepared for it, but no point in anger. So I teach people how to use time framing, how to use measuring the amount of emotion that we've got. Is the emotion that we've got appropriate to the situation? So am I more angry than I really need to be in this situation, or am I not angry enough uh,
Mhm.
for this situation? Am I showing and experiencing the appropriate degree of anger? If I'm not, it's probably a cover up emotion. It's probably not an authentic emotion. So I'm teaching people how to identify their own emotions, so have self awareness, and then how to manage their own emotions. So to manage myself and how I express my emotions, to have awareness of other people, what's going on the other side of this interpersonal relationship equation, and then to manage my share of the energy in the interpersonal relationship so that we build healthy relationships. So
Mhm.
they're the key principles to the model.
Yeah. So if I understand clearly, you say instead of positive and negative emotions, you say healthy and unhealthy emotions.
Healthy and unhealthy means of expressing the emotion.
Hmm.
So anger is not healthy or unhealthy. Just like a shotgun, I have a cabinet with a shotgun in it, which I go and shoot clay pigeons with, and that gives me a lot of fun, pleasure. Equally, I could take the same shotgun, saw the barrel off, and go into a bank and rob it.
Hmm.
Um, the shotgun is just a shotgun. It's not positive or negative. It just
Okay.
is.
Hmm.
But it's how I use the shotgun that makes it positive or negative.
Hmm.
So helping people to understand that is really an important part of this.
Yeah. So when we talk about personal life and professional life, like that you are working with executives, does it change anything with their personal lives or what they are leading the team, the emotions? Do they change a little bit or all they same?
No, emotions are just emotions, and relationships are just relationships. We have different levels of relationships, different kinds of relationships, and they're all to do with us meeting another person as another human being, having respect for them and having respect for ourselves, and then finding how can we connect, how can we form a bond of attachment. Because the bottom line for emotions and human survival is all about attachment. If we make attachments to one another, we don't harm one another. We support one another and work together cooperatively.
Yes. This brings us to my fourth question. As someone who certifies professionals to present or coach using your model, what are some common misconceptions or challenges that individuals face when they begin incorporating emotional assertiveness into their life?
I think the first misconception is misunderstanding the word assertive. In the English language, it means to state clearly and calmly and repetitively something that's important to you. A lot of people, even English people or British English speaking people, hear the word assertive and think it means to be aggressive and pushy. It isn't. And the other thing that I found fascinating when I started to travel around the world and work with people all over the world is how many cultures don't even have a word for assertive. So learning what that word means and how to apply it in terms of our emotions is a really important thing, and it's where a lot of the misconceptions come, that people think that if they hear emotional assertiveness, it means to bully people using my emotions, which is not true, or to manipulate people using emotions, which is not what it's about at all.
Yeah, with my husband last night when I was looking for assertiveness, assertive intelligence, we were looking it in Turkish, and it was a very difficult word in Turkish. Also, it's we don't have the exact word for this word, so I can understand the coaches around the world might not have it also. But I think this comes with a. I don't know if you think this. It comes with gender. If you're a woman and if you're an assertive one, then they label you as pushy and aggressive. But if you're a man, they don't say this much to you. So, is there a distinction between the genders, do you think?
Well, there's a lot of gender bias, particularly around emotion. Men are supposed to be less emotional than women, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. In real terms, a tiny baby, if it's wrapped up in clothing, you don't know whether it's a man or a woman or a male or a female.
Yeah.
In my experience with of my children, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, they all act exactly the same in their display of emotion. A tiny baby who's hungry lets you know about it in no uncertain terms, uh, and they show you they're angry because they're hungry, and they can move from being happy, giggling, gurgling, to being angry to the level that it looks like if they were big enough, you'd be in harm's way. And they do that very rapidly. And then they go back again when their tummy is full, when their anger has got them what they need. They go back to gurgling and being happy again. So male female babies don't show any differentiation in emotions. We
Mhm.
learn our roles as men and women. We learn how we're supposed to behave, how we're supposed to share our emotions. But men cry. It's not just a female prerogative,
Mhm.
and women get angry. We're just human beings. There are differences between men and women, and not emotional differences,
Mhm.
other than those that we're taught by our families, by our cultures, by our
Mhm.
religions, by our schools.
Mhm.
So by the time we've grown up, we've lost track of authenticity, I'm afraid.
Yes, unfortunately. Okay, my next question is, how has the concept of emotional assertiveness evolved over the years, and what are some notable success stories or transformations you witnessed through its application in various settings? Could you share maybe a practical example of how coaches have successfully used emotional assertiveness in resolving conflicts within teams or groups?
Whew, that's a scary question. How has it evolved? I think that primarily the central theory hasn't changed a great deal. I think I was pretty spot on when I noticed that happiness is not a luxury; it's actually our core emotion, and
Mhm.
that hasn't changed at all. I know that I was spot on with the three basic emotions, why we have them, what they tell us, and how to use them, and I know it works because I've seen it in operation. I've seen it working. Um, Around the edges, some things have probably got a bit more sophisticated. I've involved other things into the model, like, for example, love. A lot of people think love is an emotion, and I realized that it isn't an emotion at all. When we love, we have emotions, but they're all the ordinary emotions. There's nothing special about love itself. Love is not an emotion. But when I love somebody, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm scared, I'm angry. They're all attached to love. So I think we have a romantic notion of love that is like, ah, which is true for the first probably 5 or 6 months
Mhm.
of committed relationship kind of love.
Mhm.
But I've bought into the factor that every relationship we have will have an element of love in it. So I use the Greek language to understand the word love. English, we have lots of metaphors for love, lots of similes for love, but they all mean the same thing.
Mhm.
But the Greeks have a number of words that are translated into English as love, but each word has a totally different meaning. So we have philautia, that's self love.
Mhm.
We love ourselves. And a lot of people think that's awful. Self love, oh, bad news. Whereas I would tell you that unless you love yourself, you haven't got a lot of space left to love anybody else.
Mhm.
That loving other people comes from your capacity to accept yourself as you are and to love yourself as you are and to be real, open, and just connect with people. And then there's eros, which is that sexual love that
Mhm.
everybody gets wound up about and excited about. But for me, eros isn't just sexual love. Eros is aestheticism. So it's like seeing beautiful things, smelling beautiful smells, hearing beautiful music. All of that, I think, is a part of eros. It's
Appreciation of beauty.
beauty and sensuality. Yes.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's philia, which is the love of someone for who they are. It's brotherly love at its basic level, but it doesn't have to be male female. So it's philia. It's loving someone for who you see them as, for the person that they are, for their humanity, for their kindness and warmth or whatever. There's agape, which is to do with sacrificial giving. It's to do with commitment. So I decide to a relationship of agape with somebody, a loving relationship, which is I make a commitment to them. In the wedding ceremony, we say that we're joined as we become one. Um, in the Christian church, we have the breaking of bread and the drinking of the wine,
Mhm.
which is actually described as the love feast, agape. It's
Okay.
about we being many are one. It's about our commitment to be one together.
Mhm.
And but also that means that sometimes we give even when we can't afford to give. We give beyond what we can afford. It's
Mhm.
sacrificial giving.
Mhm.
Um, there's storge. That's the love that a parent has for their child.
Okay.
It's totally unconditional. It should be. There's ludus, which is playfulness, teasing, flirting, and there's pragma, which is that long-standing love when you've been together with someone in a relationship for many years and you just know one another and you're comfortable with one another and you accept each other for who you are,
Mhm.
good and bad. I've brought that into the model and help people to see how their emotions operate in all of those different relationships and how important it is to bring love into the way that we view one another as human beings, but also our planet, like the love of our planet. We
Mhm.
need to develop a love for the fact that this globe that we sit on is sustaining us, and we need to take care of it in the way that we need to take care of one another in relationship. So that's something that I've built in that for me is quite important.
I encourage our audience to take notes while listening to you, probably for the ones who are not watching us live. Afterwards, after we put it on YouTube, you should start watch it with your pen and notebook. There are so many things that you should take notes.
All of that you'll find in my books. The first book was called Foreplay, Fair Play, and Foul Play.
Okay.
That covers basically the modules that I do in training. And the second book is What's Love Got to Do with It, which is all about the thing that I've just spoken to you about. So those books contain all that information.
Thank you so
So
much for sharing that.
you asked about seeing it in operation, I believe, if I
Mhm.
remember your question
Yes,
correctly.
yes.
So in operation, well, one of the things that for me is most dramatic was a therapeutic example of someone who came to me many, many years ago, 35 years ago, maybe, with Crohn's disease. And she'd already had a large section of her intestines removed, and was waiting for the next section to be removed. We did 4 years of therapy, so it was a long piece of therapy, during which time we used this model to help her to get in touch with her anger and express her anger instead of swallowing her anger.
Mm.
She never had the second operation, and it's now 35 years down the line, and she's still healthy and well. Every time she gets a little twinge in her intestines, she asks herself, what did I just swallow that I need to spit out? So she uses that to express her anger in a healthy, authentic way and get her needs met.
That gave me goosebumps because I've been through the same thing as a holistic approach. I didn't know anything about this. 10 years ago, I lost my father, and after 1 year after that, I got my left ovarium removed because of a tumor 15 centimeters big. And I waited for 3 weeks for the pathology results, if it's benign or malign, and it was a horrible 3 weeks of my life, because if it's malign, the other ovarium and maybe my uterus will be removed.
Yes.
And it was thankfully benign. But I learned that afterwards, so after I started searching about these topics, that it's because that I didn't go through my emotion, my grief about loss of my father. That happened. My 5 centimeters chocolate cyst become a 15 centimeter of tumor. It's just mind blowing. And
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much for bringing it up. It's a very people should know about this holistic approach. It is not just the medicine. It's also this therapeutic, emotional, everything it comes into it, and we need to look 360 degrees around what's going on with us.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that. That's really generous of you to be willing to share that with us all. And you're right. Um, when you were telling me, I was in my mind already linking what you were telling me about the operation that you had to have, and your loss and your grief. And I thought, I bet she didn't go through the angry stage of her grieving process. I didn't. She
Probably I did not. Mm-mm.
didn't allow herself to be angry with her father, and then wasn't able to thoroughly grieve because that part of the process has been missed out.
Yeah, yeah.
Interestingly enough, that area of the human body, both in men and women, that's the root of our anger. All our anger comes from way down low in our body. And people who do karate, martial arts, know that. When we punch or kick, we make a loud sound which comes from the pit of our body, and we push it up through us, and it releases adrenaline. That's where our anger comes from, way down there.
Mm.
So it's interesting. You're right that when emotions aren't expressed in a healthy way, long-term impact can have serious physical impacts on our body.
Yes.
That's not to say that every time someone has something wrong with them, it's because they haven't expressed their emotion.
Yeah, stay in the safe side.
And
But I'm just sharing my own experience.
yes,
I totally agree with what you said.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm,
And in terms of everyday work with coaching, I use the same principles. It's just that we don't go in that deep. So when I see people in coaching who are blocked, they get to that spot where they just can't seem to go beyond it. I use myself as a tool. So I first I start to ask myself, what am I feeling? What are my emotions? Because we're in a relationship. So when I see them blocked, what do I feel? And what do I see on their faces and in their bodies? What are they feeling that they're perhaps not expressing? So I will ask people to check themselves out and say, so what emotion do you have? Pick a card, sad, scared, angry, and get them to get in touch with the underlying emotion. And when they get in touch with the underlying emotion, we can now explore, so how come you're scared, or how come you're angry, or whatever? What's that about? To get to the root of, so this is what's wrong and this is what I need to do to address it.
mhm.
And it's amazing how quickly people move through their blocks when they're asked to get in touch with their emotions around them.
It's really important to have a mentor in front of you to lead you to the correct way. Because when you work with your emotions by yourself, sometimes it's dangerous. You go deep and you can't come out of that deepness, and you feel like drowning, and it's scary.
Yes. Yeah.
So my next question, today's fast-paced and ever-changing world, how do you see the importance of emotional assertiveness in maintaining healthy, respectful, and productive relationships? What advice do you have for individuals seeking to enhance their emotional assertiveness skills in modern context?
Well, the simple answer is it's central to us living together in healthy relationships, being healthy, emotionally healthy ourselves, and having healthy interpersonal relationships where we care for one another, we show respect and care and concern. Um, we develop with our emotional intelligence and our emotional assertiveness. We develop the capacity to be empathic and to show our empathy by showing compassion. So I think this world needs more empathy and I'm horrified by what I see going on in the world around me, all over the world. We seem incapable of living together in a healthy way. And I hear the rhetoric. And in the rhetoric, I hear the unhealthy emotions. I hear the hatred, the prejudice, the way that people are dehumanized in the way that we talk about one another. I think that we really need to learn how to do something about that, to start seeing each other as human beings and as equal to one another. That I'm not more equal than you because I'm a man, or more equal than you because I'm older, or you're not more equal than me because you're running these tea chats. And it's like we're human beings. We get together and we each have things that we can put into the equation that we both benefit from if we share them. So it's about learning how to use our emotions in a healthy way to make healthy connections wherever we go, even with strangers on a train or on an aeroplane, just having a chat with someone as a human being and connecting. I think it's really important. And the more
Yes.
we do that, it will grow like mushrooms. It's like we impact other people, and other people do it, and other people do it. That for me is what it's about. It's about making a change by changing ourselves.
Yes, I totally agree. We respect each other just because we are equally human to each other,
Yes.
and not just because you are older than me. I respect you. Or there are too many examples I can give that the older, grandfathers, grandmothers respect their grandchildren. Talk to them as an individual, as a free person, and
Yes.
not just their offspring or whatever, they just can't do this out of um, only respect. It's just the human being condition. And what you said about love is not emotion, I think it's what is it called, not emotion, but stage, not stage, but I don't remember. There is a book called The Atlas of the Heart, if you heard from
No.
Brené Brown. She is with a team, huge team, identified 81 emotions in this book. It is very, very also helpful to identify correctly what are we are experiencing at the moment. What is this? There are little subtle differences between emotions. So it is very important to learn about all these emotional assertiveness
Yes.
from you. Thank you so much, John Parr, for your
May
time.
may I just respond to what you said about the 81 emotions?
Yes, please.
I would say that there are four,
Okay.
but all of the others are composed of little bits of those four.
Yes.
So it's just like a color palette. From three colors, I can create all the colors under the sun. And the thing about emotions, as the three sad, scared, and angry give us information about problem solving. When we've got what I call a compound emotion, one of the ones that's not sad, scared, or angry, then what we need to do is to go down deeper and say, so I'm this much angry, I'm this much scared. And what do I need to do to deal with my anger? What do I need to do with my scare? What do I need to do with my sadness? So I say that there are four primary emotions, and all the rest are compound emotions
Yes.
built from those primaries.
Yes. All the more we need to know all about them
We need
so
to
we
do all
can
about
see the
them. Yeah,
distinctions. Yes.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
so much, John. It is very pleasure to me to have you here, and with these all insightful answers. I'm so glad that you take your time, be with us. I hope to be with you in other projects in the future. Thank you.
I would like that. Teşekkür.
Thank you, Coach Magazine Global audience. We are glad to have you here watching us. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Instagram accounts, and follow us for the further tea talks. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye bye.